Hey guys, Bryan Veliz with Slide Check Training. We're out here at Range 35 going through some low light applications. So some questions that we get asked or see a lot of during class, especially when it comes to handheld light applications during daytime, is when we're practicing any of the handheld positions, we see some students kind of struggle a little bit with indexing the handheld light onto target or even the weapon mounted light onto target, specifically because they can't see the handheld light. They can't see the light, the hotspot on target during daytime. So one little do-it-yourself hack that can help you for your self-practice or whenever you're teaching is if you see the target, you can run some black spray paint on it, just enough, however much you want on there, and then you can get some reflective tape and put it above the black, right? So as soon as you get that handheld light on target, you'll see the hot spot reflect and flood off the reflective tape. So that's a good indication that, hey, my light is on target or where it needs to be, versus your handheld light being somewhere up in the sky or in the ground itself. So a good little life hack for you is get some black spray paint on target and put a little bit of reflective tape over it, and then you'll have a good reference point of indexing that handheld light onto target itself. So if you take a look downrange, right, we have a target, some black spray paint, and you have a little piece of reflective tape there. So if you'll notice from here, yes, because we're a little bit of low light already, so I can see my light, but during daytime it's kind of hard. We'll see guys go into certain handheld positions and they can't see the light during daytime, but if you put the black tape, the black spray paint and the reflective tape on target, you'll see it bounce off generally, and that's a good indication that that light is on target. That way guys are getting proper reps of indexing that handheld light on target or weapon mounted light on target. Weapon mounted light's pretty easy, but handheld, we see a lot of guys either aiming the light up here or down here or doing some type of unicorn stuff, right? That's what we don't want. So make sure this is a good little life hack for you to make sure that you're indexing the handheld light onto target itself. A quick tip on making sure you know the condition of your weapon and your equipment before you go live on range or before you go to patrol aspect. So one thing we take a look, right, TRIARC's Glock 17 is making sure knowing the condition of your weapon and your equipment. Right now it's dry, but how would I make sure to set it up? So first thing is making sure that functioning of the lights and the optics and so forth, okay? Nobody's downrange, just a dead target. From here, I'm going to activate my weapon mounted light. I can clearly see my weapon mounted light is working. So from here, if you're running a dot, I want to adjust my dot for the light to make sure that the light is not going to wash out the dot. My dot is adjusted for the weapon mounted light. You can also do that with your handheld light to make sure that the dot is adjusted for the handheld light. That way, when you're doing low light, the handheld light or the weapon mounted light doesn't wash out the dot. All right, so now we need to get some ammo in this gun, okay? Two ways to make sure that this gun's in battery. Press checks are free, something we like to say. I can clearly see that there's a round in there. I can clearly see it right now, but let's say I couldn't see it because of low light. I can feel that round. I'll let go. We see guys that either baby it and it kind of gets stuck and it's out of battery. Make sure you just send it home and you're set from there. So that's option one for you. Press checks are always free, or depending on your platform that you're using, you can check the LCI, right? The loaded chamber indicator right here on the extractor. There's a round in there, you'll feel that extractor is bulged out, okay? Sometimes you can feel that, sometimes you can't, depending if you're wearing gloves or not, or the environment. Maybe it's pretty cold out here and your fingers are a little bit numb. So a good way again is press checks, or you can check through your LCI. So that's making sure you know the condition of your weapon and your equipment, and making sure that everything is set up and good to go before going to night shift or day shift or on the range itself. All right guys, so let's get some live reps of the handheld application. So let's look at handheld light only for right now. I do have a weapon mounted light, but we see a big deficiency of guys not practicing enough of the handheld light applications versus weapon mounted light. Because at the end of the day, weapon mounted light is easy, yes? Two-handed grip, that's our best shooting platform, but not enough guys do one-handed work, and then especially one-handed work with a flashlight. All right. So handheld light is generally staged in my hand, right? We'll see how light on target will play a role. So as soon as I get that hot spot on target, I can clearly see that I'm PID the target. Also, we can get the reflective glow off the tape itself. All right, so your natural stance, okay, nothing to it. Light on target, identified, good to go there. All right guys, so now we're gonna kick off these lights so you can get a full view of how it is. We're getting into a little bit of the mesopic condition. We still have a sunset going down, but let's see how it looks under the different lighting conditions without these lights. We covered the handheld applications, quick run through of the modified FBI, tempo index, and the Harry's position. But now let's talk about the weapon mounted light activation. Okay, for me, weapon mounted lights are mandatory for a patrol aspect, and then also as far as off duty or from a armed citizen aspect. I prefer that I have two lights, a handheld light and a weapon mounted light. I have much more ability to do a lot more things, especially with a weapon mounted light, but then also as far as the admin and searching, there's a lot of applications for them both. So schools of thought on the weapon mounted light running the Surefire X300, the 1000 lumen model. Some schools of thought are activating with index finger. Okay, we see during that, through the data, we have a lot of guys NDing when they don't mean to, because under aggressive movement or their switchology is pretty stiff. This is a pretty worn out Surefire, running the Foster switches on here, but even then, if I really try to get on them, sometimes I can slip in here when I don't want to, and that could possibly cause an ND, or so forth. Or if I'm just trying to activate this to ID something and I slip, there could be issues there. So I'm a big proponent on activating only generally with the support hand as much as possible. Okay, so we have three simple methods or options for you. Okay, obviously it's a dead gun, there's no slide here. Okay, no projectiles can come out of this. So right now this is a dead gun, or a red gun as I like to call it. Guys are like, hey, how come you don't just get a cert gun? I'm like, bro, ain't nobody got time for that. All right, just take apart the slide and we're good to go. So anyways, right, so way to activate this through the meet and greet process. Right, as soon as I meet and greet, I have three simple ways to do this. You can knuckle up here and run constant on and then form your grip. That's an option for you. And then to deactivate, again, support hand is activating and deactivating. From here to deactivate, simply click down on that switch. So that's option one. Or to activate, I can go thumb down from here, meet and greet, I'm set, and then knuckle up to deactivate. That's option number two. Or some guys will like to come thumb up, good to go there, and then thumb down. So again, right, we have three options for you. Knuckle up on the presentation, meet and greet, constant on. From there, again, thumb down. Or I can thumb down, and then to deactivate, knuckle up. Or during the meet and greet process, thumb up and then thumb down. Okay, so again, at any point my trigger finger is not activating or deactivating. That way there's no potential possibility of me tripping in this trigger guard when I don't want to, or during a startle response of me trying to activate this light to get ID on a target and slip into the trigger guard when I don't want to. So it's all support hand driven. Okay, support hand driven to reduce liability, to reduce NDs and so forth. Alright guys, so now let's get some live reps of the weapon mounted light activation. We'll walk through it. I'm a big fan of running a constant on activation versus a momentary on. We see guys when they do momentary, if they're not pressing hard enough on that switch, they lose a light and it creates an unwanted strobe. That's what I don't want. I'd rather just worry about the grip, sights, and trigger versus grip, sight, trigger, and making sure I'm putting enough pressure on that switchology. That way I don't lose a light. So for me, weapon mounted light activation, I'll generally run it on a constant on mode, so forth, right? So let's take a look at the activation. Let's look at the momentary, okay? I'll do my best to not game this. So we see guys who are pushing in, depending on your switchology, under high strings of fire, all right, under duress and stress. We'll see guys activate it here, and then high strings of fire, that light kind of goes on and off. That's what we don't want. We're losing information, especially if that's the only light source we have available, and then we're creating a lag time or a buffer strobe that we don't want, okay? So for me, again, I prefer constant on. So we'll walk through it. Whatever option you want to use, again, knuckle up or thumb down, it's going to be up to you, and it'll also depend on what type of weapon mounted light you're running. Walk through it. For me, I generally prefer going knuckle up. Okay, that's the easy method for me. Knuckle up, constant on. All I'm worried about from here is sights and trigger, okay? Follow through process from here. Depending on the context, I may not be able to search with this weapon mounted light, so I'll have to reach for my handheld light. Readjust my thread if needed, and so forth. From here, then I can worry about deactivating this weapon mounted light, again, with support hand, not your index finger. Whether you leave weapon mounted light on target is going to be dependent on you and the context. Maybe that, again, that's a light source and you want to keep it on the threat to make sure that he no longer needs service and he's out of the fight, he's disconnected from the gun, or you can turn it off. It's going to be context and user dependent, okay? So again, simple ways of activating it, either knuckle up, or thumb down. It's really up to you. What we don't want versus what we want. We covered some handheld applications and weapon mounted light activation earlier. Now let's talk about injured shooter and weapon mounted light activation. Even though, let's say, again, support hand is down, right? Support hand, but I still have full function of this arm. If I can move it, I can use it. So we get asked like, hey, how do I activate a weapon mounted light when this hand is down? There are a couple different options for you. And this is why, again, I think weapon mounted lights are mandatory patrol wise for on duty and off duty. It doesn't always have to be a gunshot wound. It could always maybe be I threw a bad punch, right? Sprained my wrist or something. Maybe I tripped and fell. We have a lot of data showing guys tripping and falling in the environment. Maybe when you try to plant, right, you tweaked your wrist or something happened, or maybe you got cut, whatever the case may be. So how do I activate a weapon mounted light without using my index finger? Okay, again, right now in this aspect, I'm already having a bad day at the office. I don't want to make it even worse by ending into something or someone I don't want, because yes, I'm having a bad day, I'm under duress and so forth, but there's a couple of ways to go safe about it. Option number one again is we have the holster. Generally that's readily available to us on a patrol aspect, whether it's a Safari Line kit or a Kydex, depending on what you're running. But when we look at it, Safari Line holster here, the kits sometimes, again, are slick. They're Kydex, or maybe they're wrapped in Cordura. If they're running pretty slick, I'll put skate tape. The skate tape will help me have a positive activation off rocking on the switchology off the weapon mounted lights. Again, for me, it's the Surefire X300. So it's a dead gun. Okay, dead gun at this point. Just to double check. All right, press checks are always free. Good to go. From here, I can just take it apart. Easy day. That way we're all set. So anywhere I point this, we're good to go. Again, dead gun, can't hurt anybody. So coming out of the holster, big things to note. Okay, things to note is I'm working with my kit and working with my body, not against. You'll see here the skate tape I have wide enough so as I rock down, it's constant on. So I am using it like if I'm trying to light a match, I'm rocking down, so I am set from here. So any type of one-hand application, I can rock off this. So again, right, support hand is still down, but I'm rocking off there and I'm good to go, and I can do what I need to. I'm not activating or deactivating with my index finger. So that's an option for you. Again, I'm working down and in, not upwards. Working upwards sometimes is inefficient, but it also will depend on your switchology, okay? So for me, generally I'll stay down, I'll use gravity for me, and I'll rock down, okay? So I'm rocking, the muzzle is pointed in a safe direction for the environment. For here, I am good to go at that aspect. So from here, I'm activated, and I'm not, again, deactivating or activating with my index finger. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool, that's option for you, right? Option number one for you. Or maybe I have environment available to me. Maybe I'm using a vehicle. Maybe I'm fighting off the ground. Maybe it's a table, or whatever aspect may be. I could always deck this gun off the environment and use a different method. So let's take a look at that. Okay, let's say I'm fighting around a vehicle from here, right? And I come out, and maybe I don't have a holster because I'm running concealed or so forth, or maybe just that method is not working for me. Options for you are using the environment. You own the environment doesn't own you, okay? And if I have at least ambulatory movement of this arm, then I can move it again, right? If I can move it, I can use it. So let's use the vehicle where I'm working off the trunk or the hood or so forth. I can deck this gun off it from here. I'm gonna go, I'll use this as counter support, place on top here. From here, I can reach over, and what you'll notice, right, for here aspect wise, camera wise, off the ground itself. So I'm not activating with my index finger. I am coming around and using my palm as a safeguard, so I'm not slipping into the trigger guard. Some guys will want to do this, but then they'll slip in. So I'm grasping above it, right, from here, grabbing around it there, and I am activating down. From there, then I can get back to my grip and go from there. If I needed to deactivate it in any way, I can set it off the environment or so forth. From here, I'm coming again and just knuckling up. So that's options for you. So you can do come around, you can do thumb down to activate and then knuckle up, or you can go knuckle up and then go from there, so forth. Things to note when you do it off the environment, whether it's the ground or off the hood of a vehicle, so forth, place it in your natural position. We'll see guys that will place it, but they'll place it backwards like this, and now it's kind of inefficient, okay? Now I can still activate my weapon mount light, but now when I want to go back for my grip, I have to go underneath the gun. We'll see that happen a few times. Try to avoid that, okay? When you're decking it off the environment, deck it normally, okay, here, so I can activate my weapon mount light and I can establish my normal grip versus trying to scoop underneath the gun itself. So two simple ways to activate your weapon mount light. Again, off the holster if you have it, or off the environment itself. Try to do your best to avoid activating and deactivating with your index finger.